Hello. Good afternoon. It is day 2 of our training on pelvic floor dysfunctions. I'm going to give you guys a few seconds to hop on again, see if anybody's around. And if not, that's okay. I'm just going to get talking and you guys can watch the replay of this later. I hope you guys are having a good Tuesday. Just an update from yesterday, if you watched my video, my husband's test did come back positive. So, we were already quarantining, but we will definitely be quarantining now. So, woohoo, a couple weeks at home. So, if you guys hop on and you can hear me, go ahead and let me know. Hey, I can hear you in the comments. And I will watch for those comments. Hello, I see a person. Go ahead and let me know in the comments if you can hear me again. Just make sure my mic is working. But this is day 2 of our training on pelvic floor dysfunctions. Today we're going to be talking about why are pelvic floor problems potentially dangerous. And I'm really excited about this training because it explains a lot of things. And I don't know, if you guys are into, how your body works and all of that, like, it's fascinating to me. So I'm excited about this training specifically today and tomorrow. I'm excited about the whole training, but there's just so many things that come together when we talk about today. So, again, just let me know in the comments, yes, I can hear you, so that I know you can hear me. But I'm going to go ahead and jump on in, and again, as we go along, if you guys have questions, go ahead and put those in the comments, and let me know what your questions are. I did want to just remind you guys today, that you are not alone in this problem or these different things that we struggle with as moms. Or this is not necessarily something that can just be a mom problem. It could actually be men can actually have some of these problems too. So if you know someone in your life who struggles with pelvic floor dysfunctions or problems and they've shared that with you, share these videos with them. Hey, Pastor John. Because this could be something that would be very useful for them, okay? So, I also wanted to share a little story with you really quick in that I know how you guys are feeling if you have some problems with your pelvic floor, mamas especially, that I remember the first time after I had my first daughter, I went to do a workout after I was cleared and everything, and I think it involved probably like burpees or jumping or something. And I just remember doing that first workout and thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to pee my pants. And I may have peed my pants a little bit too. And just thinking, oh my gosh, this is so different from when I used to be able to work out. And I was very active before I had my babies. And that was my goal, was to be very active before, because I knew if I was active before, then I would recover faster and I'd be able to be more active after having babies. And that was very true. But your body is just not the same after having a baby. And so I just want you to know you're not alone, and there are ways to fix these problems. So there is hope, and that's why I'm here. Okay, so I'm going to jump right in today talking about how pelvic floor dysfunctions can actually be potentially dangerous. So the first thing I want to talk about is, I don't know, you can just type in the comments if you've ever heard of the kinetic chain. And just type, yep, I've heard of it. But the kinetic chain is basically the way that our muscles are designed to move. And the kinetic chain is basically the movement of muscles in your body working together. So essentially, every muscle is connected to every other muscle in your body. Okay? Now there are different segments of muscles that are more interconnected than others, but essentially every muscle is connected to every other muscle. And I'm going to explain this. When I was putting this together, I was thinking of the Bone song, where it's like the thigh bones connect to the hip bone. I don't know, I just was thinking of that, so I thought that was kind of funny. But anyway, so I want to talk really quick about how is the pelvic floor connected to the rest of your body, because that's very important. So the pelvic floor is obviously those muscles that are underneath the bottom of your pelvis, and there's several different ones. But if you don't know this, your pelvic floor is actually connected to your hip flexors. What are your hip flexors connected to? They're connected to your legs. The hip flexors are also connected to your core. Okay, so the pelvic floor is directly interrelated with the core. And what is the core connected to? The core is connected to your chest and your back. And what is the back connected to? It's connected to your neck. It's connected to your shoulders. So what we have here is when your pelvic floor is having a dysfunction, it directly affects mostly your core. And so the one major reason why pelvic floor dysfunction can potentially be dangerous is because it causes core imbalances. And that's the main thing I want us to focus on when we're talking about pelvic floor. We're talking about postpartum. If you think about postpartum, your belly stretches out and all those muscles get stretched out. So there are a lot of other things that can happen than just pelvic floor dysfunction. But if you have some of the pelvic floor symptoms, which we'll talk about, or core symptoms, we'll talk about that tomorrow, you may have a core imbalance or a pelvic floor problem, and so that's why we're talking about this. I remember when my mom, so I'm one of 6 kids, I'm the oldest, and my mom had, I think it was either my second to last brother or her last baby. And I remember something happening to her, and I don't know if it was directly related to postpartum, but she definitely had some back issues, and I mean, she carried 6 babies. Actually, she carried more than that. She had some miscarriages. But I remember her being on the floor one time with my baby brother, and she was doing, you know, how you lay him on the floor, and you're over him, and you're playing, and you're, you know, giggling and cooing, and I just remember I was there, and she just stopped, and she was like, take him from me, take him from me. Like, she couldn't move. Something had, like, pulled in her back. She literally, like, had to roll over, or she would have fallen flat on my brother. And so, I mean, it was a pretty, you know, it shook her up, and she had pulled her hip out or her back out or something of that kind. And so this is why I want to talk about these problems, is because it was most likely directly related to a pelvic floor core imbalance that she was having. And so what happens when we have a core imbalance, so let's say your pelvic floor is tight. And just to note, most often, hi Laura, I see you. So let's say your pelvic floor is tight, which if you have pelvic floor leaking, just because your pelvic floor leaks doesn't mean it's necessarily weak. It can actually be tight. And again, this is just caused from a core imbalance. And so let's say your pelvic floor is tight. Well, that probably means that your lower abdominals, maybe your upper abdominals, are weak. And so that tends to go up, and or you may have more tightness in your lower body. And so it just causes this imbalance. So when one muscle is weak, it causes other muscles to be too tight, or vice versa. And so we really have to work on connecting these things and making sure that they're the way that they're supposed to be. Sometimes people will talk about length of a muscle, and so there's a specific length of a muscle that it should be in order to function properly. And so if it's too long or it's too short, it won't function as best as it could. So that's the basic understanding of why core imbalances are potentially dangerous, is because if one muscle is weak, then you have another muscle that's too tight. And more often than not, core imbalances or muscle imbalances will cause an injury over time. It may not be something that happens now. Now, I wanted to address, there are a couple of other things that make these imbalances worse. And I know this next thing I'm going to talk about is something that we all struggle with, but I just want us to be aware of it so that we can pay attention to our bodies and be in tune with our bodies. And so that thing, one of those things that can make our core imbalances worse is stress. It's anxiety. And the reason behind that, it could be anything in your life that causes stress, anxiety, depression, whatever it is, being too busy, your body holds tension in certain places. And so if you already have a part of your body that's too tight, it probably tends to be tight there because there's an imbalance. What happens when you're stressed is it causes it to be even more tight. So like for me, for instance, I tend to be an ab gripper because my lower abdominals are weak and my pelvic floor tends to be a little bit weak. And so when I get stressed out, tense, I end up having mid-back and upper back pain, and it just continues to go up my body. And so that's something that I really have to work on, is loosening up and not gripping and relaxing my back in order to get rid of that tension. So another way stress can cause tension, or different places you could hold tension, would be in your pelvic floor. And I know you might think that's kind of weird, but if you like sit still in a time that you are stressed and just evaluate, where do I feel tightness? And you might have to actually think about relaxing your pelvic floor, or taking deep breath, relaxing your shoulders. So pay attention to where you hold your stress. Another place you can hold stress is in your jaw. Like clenching, I actually have to wear a bite guard at night because I'm a clencher. And so your jaw, again, everything's connected to everything, will cause neck tension, will cause shoulder tension. And so again, these imbalances are important to pay attention to. The last thing I wanted to talk about that could potentially be making this problem worse is, for those of you who said you were very active yesterday, we talked about who are you when it comes to pelvic floor dysfunction. Are you not very active, moderately active, or you're very active? You who are moderately active or very active, such as myself, you have goals, you lift weights, you want to do pull-ups, you want to do jumping jacks and all these different things, which is awesome. I mean, go for it, do it. You may not have pelvic floor dysfunction now. And I want to stress this because I actually feel like I've had a pretty good go at keeping tabs on my body, but I actually think that I may have caused myself to have some pelvic floor problems, not directly related to postpartum, but it was after postpartum because I was lifting heavier, those kinds of things. And so that's the point I wanted to make, is that improper lifting or exercise can also cause pelvic floor problems. Usually what it causes is prolapse. And if you don't know what prolapse is, basically you have parts of your body inside that the pelvic floor is supposed to hold up that will start to fall, and they could potentially come out. Not fully, of course, but you never know. I mean, I've definitely had those experiences where I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like something's gonna fall out. And so, it's usually related to the menstrual period time. But again, that's important to pay attention to, because that's another sign that you may have a core imbalance. And so just pay attention. Those of you who plan to be active or very active, if you are doing things improperly, you're lifting heavy and you feel like you've got some back tension, and every time you lift heavy, it just doesn't go away. There's something there. It could be definitely related to pelvic floor problems. So just to review, remember we talked about, for today, we talked about the connect chain and how everything is connected to everything else. And so one of the main reasons why pelvic floor dysfunction can be potentially dangerous is that it causes core imbalances. And I'm just going to say core imbalances because we're talking about the pelvic floor. It's directly connected to your core. And so core imbalances over time most likely will cause some sort of injury. And you could just comment in the comments too after this video, but I would like to know, have you ever had where you pulled a muscle or you pulled bones out, where you had to go to the chiropractor and they had to put you back in, and you were really sore, something along those lines where that happened? I'm very curious to learn, has that ever happened to you? I know it's happened to me a few times. And so that could definitely be related to a core imbalance. So let me know in the comments below if that's ever happened to you. Again, share this video with someone who may have these issues. Let me know in the comments. Thank you for everybody who has been watching, popping on. I see you, Kristen. Hi, Aunt Lori. Yeah, so thank you so much for showing up. Tomorrow, come back because we are going to be talking about another directly related thing to pelvic floor problems. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about some of the other symptoms you might have if you have a pelvic floor dysfunction. So tomorrow is really important to watch because I will be specifically talking about different things you may have. I talked a little bit today about some of those things that could be happening, but I'm going to dive into it a lot more tomorrow. So I will see you guys then. You guys have a great day.